Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to be invited on here. And I'm actually delighted because, of course, I have team over there in Benelux, and it's always great to visit. And I have some really fabulous friends over there. So I would really like to just start by telling you a little bit about myself. My presentation will incorporate a little bit more of my history, but as you said, I've been in Forever now for 27 years. In fact, this August coming up, I will have been in Forever for 28 years. So if there's anyone who is on this webinar and are maybe new to Forever, or perhaps just joined Forever, and you're wondering if you can build a career, the answer is most definitely yes, because this is all I've done for the last 26 years. Like many people, I started my Forever business as what today we call a side hustle. I don't know if you have the same terminology over in Benelux, but I mean it's in kind of in English speaking we use the term side hustle because I had a very busy job, and I worked it alongside my busy job, but within 2 years. So I joined in August 1993, and by July 1995, I was able to quit my job and go full-time in Forever. And I'm just going to be telling you about, I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see the beginning of my slides. So you can see that I want to focus specifically on the economic depression that is inevitably going to happen because of this coronavirus or the COVID-19 pandemic that we are suffering around the world. But I wanted to try and give you all hope, because I have not just survived, but I've thrived in my working career through 3 recessions. And I wanted to give you my experience of working through those recessions and what happens at the end of it. So I hope everyone can see my slides. Olaf, if you can just give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides clearly. Perfect, thank you. And I wanted to, I want to start by saying, I think we're going to have to learn some skills from our parents. Certainly here in the UK, we're actually on a lockdown. I think you guys are a little bit more flexible with what you can do over in Benelux, but here in the UK, we've had a lockdown. So I think parents, we're going to have to learn from our parents some of the skills. And one of them I think we're going to have to learn is how to cut hair for our children. And I don't know if anyone remembers this, but we used to call it a pudding bowl haircut. And my mum used to put it on my head when I was a kid and just cut round it like this and leave me with the equivalent of a pudding bowl haircut. And fortunately, by about the age of 11 or 12, I'd managed to talk her out of that. And then so I grew my hair. I was a bit of a hippie because this was in the early 70s. And I was a surfer. I used to be a lifeguard on a beach down in Wales, over here in the UK. But I definitely think there are going to be skills we're going to be able to learn from our parents. And one of them is going to be the pudding bowl haircut. So let me start by talking about my first recession. I left university in 1982, and it was just at the tail end of a recession we suffered in the UK in 1980, which carried on into 81, 82, when inflation here in the UK went up to 20%, and our unemployment figures here topped 3 million people. So I went to work straight in the City of London in the financial markets. Straight after this recession was kind of leveling out and starting to go up again, and it was absolute boom time. I can remember that I was just 23 when I started working in the city, and I remember going to the bank on a Friday behind a 19-year-old who was working with me, and he drew out £1,000 in cash. Now, let me tell you, in 1982, that was a lot of money. And my starting salary, to give you an idea, was only £16,500. So when I saw this guy drawing out £1,000 in cash, I said to him, Stephen, why have you got so much money? And he said, oh, it's my money for the weekend to take girls out dancing and take them to dinner and champagne. And it absolutely blew my mind how much money there was out there. And he used to do that every single Friday. So that gives you an idea of the kind of money that people were making as we came out of this recession. Now, it also meant that in my second recession, by then I'd worked in the city successfully for 7 years. I was what they call a futures and options broker. And then I decided to start my own financial services company with a couple of colleagues. And what we were doing, we were selling pensions and investments. But of course, we then had so we invested a lot of money. It was a traditional business. We rented expensive offices in Victoria, in London, which is just around the corner from Buckingham Palace, if you know London. We had 2 secretaries. We had 2 word processors. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember word processors, but they're the things that came between typewriters and computers. And we put in a 40-line or a 50-line switchboard because, of course, there were very few mobile phones around back then, and most of the mobile phones that were around were huge. You know, the battery was about this big, and you literally carried it around like a small army field telephone. So we put in this switchboard, and sadly, we then hit this recession that I'm looking at when the UK fell out of the European exchange rate mechanism. Our interest rates went up to 15%. So, of course, with bank charges, people were having to repay 17% of their mortgage annually. So can you imagine if you're having to pay just 17% of your whatever you owe on your mortgage to back it? So, of course, house repossessions hit record levels. They've never been as high before or since. Unemployment again topped 3 million. And my business went bust. And I literally lost everything. All the money I'd made in the previous 7 years in the city. But I still felt, even though I'd lost all my money, that I had a tiny spark of being an entrepreneur. I still wanted to be my own boss. And that's when a friend introduced me to network marketing. And he's still a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, a guy called Richard Steele. And he introduced me to, not to Forever, but to another company. And I remember going along and seeing the numbers because I'd been working in the city. So I saw that if I was able to find 5 people and they could find 5 people, that would be 25. And they found 5, that would be 125, then 625, then 3,125. And it just, the whole thing about being able to multiply my time absolutely blew my mind. And I jumped straight in with that company. I didn't really understand the industry, and I thought that company had invented the concept of network marketing. So I jumped straight in, and meanwhile, I'd had to go back and get a full-time job. So I was working it part-time, but I went to all the trainings, I read all the books, I listened to all the cassette tapes as they were back then, because of course no CDs, no Spotify, no being able to listen to stuff, no Audible, no nothing like that. It was all done on cassette tapes. So I listened to all the cassette tapes, went to all the trainings, read all the books, and fell deeply in love. It was a real love affair with network marketing. I'd never come across a business that was so ethical in the fact that you couldn't be successful without helping the people around you that you introduced to the business to become successful. But while I was falling in love with network marketing, I was falling out of love with that company for a number of reasons. The main ones being they didn't have a consumable, repeatable product. And the more I read and learned about network marketing, the more I realized that you needed to have a consumable, repeatable product. And the second thing that I didn't like about that company were their ethics. They were very unethical in how they were operating, and they were getting people to buy thousands of pounds or thousands of euros, sometimes tens of thousands of euros more product than they actually needed, which not only is unethical, but in the UK it's illegal. So I decided after 2 years that I was going to leave that company, but I still wanted to keep network marketing in my life. So I spent a few months looking around the industry, and I looked at lots of companies I'm sure you've heard of, companies like Herbalife and Amway. And when I say this, I'm not knocking those companies. All I'm saying is they weren't the right company for me. I looked at lots of companies that were shouting from the rooftops that they were going to be the biggest thing in network marketing, that they were going to be huge. Every single one of those companies today has gone bust, or they've pulled out of Europe and they've just gone back and they're tiny over in America. So every single one of those new companies have gone. And the reason I'm saying that is the more successful you become in network marketing, the more likely you are to be pitched by some of these startup companies, because they want to make their lives easier by finding people like you and trying to convince you that what they've got is better than Forever. And in all my 28 years with Forever and my 30 years experience in network marketing, I've never come across as good a company, as honest a company, as ethical a company, as a company that produces as great products themselves than Forever. And I'm just telling you that, not because it'll make any difference to me, but it might make a very big difference to you. So I joined Forever. I looked around and eventually I came across Forever. And the person that I was introduced to was a guy called Dusty Green, who used to be our managing director in the UK back then and became our vice president for Europe. And I remember sitting down with him the very first time I looked at Forever. And he said lots of stuff. But the one thing that resonated with me was, Adam, I can promise you won't get rich quick, but you will get rich if you just stay with it. And I knew he was telling the truth, because I knew people that promised fast wealth in network marketing were either doing it the wrong way or they were doing it the unethical way. Because network marketing is like anything else. You need to build solid foundations. If you were going to build a house, you wouldn't just start building the bricks on the ground. You would dig your foundations deep, make sure they're solid. Particularly, of course, in Holland, I know, because a lot of your country is underwater. If you didn't have the dikes, you'd be there. So, of course, a lot of your ground can be waterlogged. So you need to make sure that your foundations are dug deep. And it's exactly the same in network marketing. So I decided to join, and I joined Forever in August 1993. As we were coming out of this recession. And again, it was boom time. In fact, in the UK, I think we were growing for over 100% or more every single year. And then, of course, there was the recession that many of you may well remember, which is the one back in 2008, the big financial crash, the biggest since the Wall Street crash of 1929, where we saw lots of very famous companies like Lehman Brothers go bust. By the way, there's a couple of fabulous films around that. If you've ever seen The Big Short, that is a great film, honestly. And there you go. You see, this is what we do. We're word of mouth marketing. That's what we do in network marketing. And I'm just word of mouth marketing or recommending a great film to you. And again, we had repossessions. And obviously, we Forever probably flattened, went down a bit. But by 2010, certainly in the UK, we were growing massively again. But we made a lot of mistakes. I mean, it was when social media was just coming in. And I know Olav's just been talking about, not making claims, health claims and medical claims, but that also goes for earnings claims. It's very important we don't do that. But it was just the start of people beginning to use social media like Facebook to build their businesses. And certainly in the UK, we saw a lot of people spamming, which is they were just sending messages to random people they were coming across on Facebook. People were making ridiculous health claims. I mean, I remember in the UK, I caught one of the leaders actually had taken pictures from somebody in my team. And over the course of a year, she'd gone from looking like this to this because she'd cut down on her diet. She'd exercised more. Obviously, she was using all the C9 and Fit programs. But their title was RC9, lose weight in 9 days. And they'd taken the pictures of this girl, and it had taken her a year to lose that weight, to change her shape. So some of the claims that people were making were absolutely ridiculous. Similarly, with business claims. You know, I mean, one of the things that used to annoy me so much is when people called our rallies holidays. People have won a holiday. I mean, you don't win for a start, you have to earn it. And although the rallies are fun and we meet up with our friends from all over the world, sadly not this year, as Olav was saying, we had our rally online for the first time ever yesterday. Much shorter, but nowhere near as much fun. And we meet all our friends from over the world. They're definitely not holidays. They're times when we can learn and connect and get new ideas. And so we made a lot of mistakes with our social media. So what are the lessons that I have learned from my experience of recessions? Well, first of all, recessions create a lot of disturbed or disturbable people. Now, I remember when I first joined network marketing, I was told we're looking for two kinds of people, the disturbed or the disturbable. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the mentally disturbed. I'm talking about people whose lives have been disturbed by what's happened. Or if they don't realize it, it's easy to poke them and they are disturbable. That's exactly where we're going to be and are beginning to already. You know, since this started, we've had lockdown in the UK now for 3 weeks. And since that has started, I've been approached by 3 people from my warm market who now want to find out more about the opportunity. Not because I've been pushing it, but because I've just been out there. I've just been calmly talking away about what's going on and putting good news out there and that kind of thing. So recession creates a lot of disturbed or disturbable people. So this is going to create a lot of opportunity with a lot of people for all of you. The second thing I've learned through working through 3 recessions is that people and businesses who hang tough, who are strong, don't just survive, they actually thrive in this environment. You know, it's so easy, and we're seeing it. Lots of people are giving up. Lots of self-employed people in different things are giving up. They're deciding it's not for them. They're shutting down businesses. They're doing this, they're doing that. But actually, if you just hang on in there, people are going to recognize that. People are going to appreciate that, and people are going to respect that. So make sure that whatever you do, you hang tough. And I would also say that in times of recession, people need positivity. You have to be positive. No one's going to like you or appreciate you for being a moaning Minnie. You know, some of the stuff I see on Facebook or on Instagram or on social media drives me nuts. You know, people criticizing the government, people criticizing whatever is happening at the moment. They might be criticizing their neighbors. They might be criticizing this, criticizing that. People don't want to hear that kind of stuff. And the kind of people that do want to hear that stuff are not the kind of people I want to be around. And I certainly don't want people like that in my business. The kind of people that I want in my business want to see upbeat stuff. They want to see humorous stuff. They want to see positive stuff. So if you're posting on social media, please just think, is this going to be inspirational for the people who look at me on social media? Is this going to bring a smile on somebody's face? Is this going to be an upbeat post that's going to lift people up? Because that's what people are going to be looking for in this environment. And I kind of equate that to being a lighthouse. And we all know what a lighthouse does, whether the sun is shining or it's a beautiful starry night with the moon shining, or whether the waves are crashing and the wind is howling. You need to be your own forever lighthouse. You need to just be radiating your light, your opportunity, your products to people. You need to be your forever lighthouse because people will see that. You don't need to be pushing it on people. What you just need to be is calmly standing there saying, hey, I'm in forever. We've got great products. We've got a life-changing opportunity. We can change people's lives, both with our products and with the opportunity. Here I am. And I promise you, people see it. People will see your calmness. They will see your lighthouse effect. And that's the way you want to be thinking. That's what you need to be behaving like in this time. So what else are we going to, what else can you be doing in these times to be building your business? Well, there's lots of apps. I mean, there's an app, I'm pretty sure you have it in Benelux too. It's called Nextdoor. Some of you may have come across it. Some of you may not have. I know they had it in Germany because I did this training for Katrin Beiria a few weeks ago, and some of her team was saying, yeah, we found it. But if not, I'm pretty sure there's an app like Nextdoor. And Nextdoor, it's just your small bit of your community, and then it will have the surrounding 5, 6, 7 areas. And all I do in that is I help people. If somebody asks for a recommendation, I do that. Somebody might ask for a plumber or an electrician, or somebody might ask for a gardener or a tree surgeon. I'm always making recommendations. I'm trying to be helpful on there, so that I'm attracting the right kind of interest from people. So when I do post stuff, they realize I'm not just on there to make money, that I'm a genuine part of the community. Which leads me to volunteer. If there are people struggling in your neighborhood with this COVID-19 problem, then why not reach out? I mean, what Lizzie, my wife, and I did in our street here, we live in a beautiful village in West Sussex, which is about an hour south of London. And a lot of our neighbours around here are fairly elderly. So we put a note through all of their doors saying, if you need any shopping done for yourself, if we can help in any way, then please just let us know. We'd be delighted to go out and do some grocery shopping for you, or whatever it is that you need to do. So reach out, build trust in your community, be the example that you would love to see. And also, of course, follow up with existing team. Follow up with maybe some of your team that might have joined and fallen off the forever wagon. And I don't mean by follow up, I don't mean be aggressive with them and say, hey, listen, you should have stayed with forever. By following up, all I mean is reach out to them and say, hey, listen, I just wanted to check that you and your family are safe are safe and well in these strange times we're living through at the moment. And, I did that too. I do that regularly every single day. Some days I might send out 5 messages. Some days I might send out 50 messages. But the ones that come back to me are the ones that are obviously interested in hearing a bit more. If they don't come back to me, I'm not going to force it down their throats. But it's exactly the same with leads. It's exactly the same with prospects that you might have spoken to in the past. Don't just hammer in there saying, you're silly, the career you've chosen, you're now stuck at home, you can't earn any money. Now is the time to genuinely just reach out and say, hey, I was just thinking of you in these strange times, and I hope you and the family are safe and well. And again, it's the people that come back to you, that reconnect, communicate with you. They're the kind of people that will be interested to hear your message. I don't mean also doing that aggressively, by the way. I meant, very much be gentle in your approach with people. This isn't the time to be, as we say in the UK, rubbing people's noses in what we've got compared to what they don't have. It's so easy to get it wrong in these times, and it's up to us to get it right. So I think more like being the lighthouse and trying to attract people and show people that we actually, this is a safe harbor for people to be in. That's the kind of thing that we should be looking to. But it's also a great time for you to be learning some new skills. I mean, I've always given my PowerPoint presentations to my VA, my virtual assistant, who, lives about 70 miles away from me. And I've always just sent her through the stuff, and she's put my PowerPoint presentations together. So I've decided that one of the skills I'm now learning is PowerPoint. So one of my team who's very good at PowerPoint, in fact, 2 of my team who are good at PowerPoints are now coaching me on putting my own PowerPoint presentations together, which I'm actually delighted about. I'm also doing a lot more writing. I've been writing a book on network marketing for about the last 2 or 3 years, and I always keep coming up with new chapters because I keep remembering things that I've forgotten and stuff like that. But one of the things I realized was that on my MacBook Air, I've got an Apple MacBook Air, there's a dictation facility so that I can actually dictate to my laptop and it types it out for me. Now, obviously, there's some very amusing and interesting typos that come through when it doesn't understand my voice very much. But as long as you read through and correct those, sometimes I've just dictated a whole load of stuff to my computer. I've read it back and thinking, what on earth was I trying to say? And I haven't got a clue. So make sure you're constantly checking on that. But again, writing would be good. Reading. I mean, I've started reading a couple of new books, but also rereading some really important books for us. And here's just a few of the books that I absolutely love. There's one by a guy called Tom Barrett. Any of you who were at the London Rally will remember that he spoke for us, Dare to Dream, Work to Win. I mean, just what a wonderful man, and what a brilliant, brilliant book. Dr. Tom Barrett. If you don't have this, can I strongly recommend that this is a book that you get. In the same vein, Eric Worre, of course, GoPro. Many of you may follow Eric Worre on social media like YouTube and stuff. I've been to the GoPro recruiting mastery seminars in Las Vegas every year for the last 5 years. And they're absolutely wonderful. And every year I also take the opportunity to stop in at Phoenix to the Home Office, see Rex, whoever's around, whichever senior VPs are around, Navaz and Greg and Aidan and people like that. So, it's a little thing I do with my team every year. But GoPro is a wonderful book. There's some fantastic communication stuff in here, wonderful words to use when you're approaching people about the business. And talking about that, there's also this classic book by a guy called Alan Pease called Questions Are the Answers. If you haven't got this again is a wonderful book. And I think probably most of these are available on audio as well as in book form if you're more of a listener than a reader. And of course, there's personal development, things like The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. What an absolutely brilliant book. But probably one of the most important books today in this kind of lockdown period that we're going through in these strange times is a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by a guy called Shad Helmstetter. And this is all about that little voice that we have going on inside our brains and how to program our language for when we're talking to ourselves. Because very often we'll find ourselves talking negatively to ourselves, like, I can't do this, it's not going to work. Everyone on here has had that conversation with themselves. I know they have. And interestingly, in 2001, I ran the London Marathon, which was in May of 2001. And in January, I just happened to be working in Denmark with some of my team. And one of the guys there happened to be the coach for the Danish long distance running team. And he told me that when you run a marathon, the most difficult distance is the 15 centimeters from here to here. He said, if you can get this right, you can run a marathon. And he was absolutely right. And then again in 2006, when I climbed Kilimanjaro, it was exactly the same thing. It doesn't matter how fit you are, the most difficult distance is, and it's 5,895 meters high, by the way, Kilimanjaro. The most difficult distance of that 5,895 meters is the 15 centimeters from here to here. And so get that right. And that book helps us to get that right. I'm also listening to more stuff on Audible, the app. I know you get it over there. It's a wonderful app. You pay a monthly subscription, but some of the stuff you can get on there is outstanding. And what I very often do is if I get a book, a physical book, I'll also buy it on Audible so I can listen to it as well as read it, because you get a slightly different perspective in your brain when you're reading something to when you're listening to something. This is also a great time to be working on our fitness. So, if you're out there and you've got some spare time, then why not put an extra half hour a day into doing some fitness and maybe even some meditation. Meditation's a great thing to do. It helps us focus our minds. They've even proven that, children of school age actually perform better in school when they're able to still their brains a little bit by meditation. And, I'm not trying to be kind of hippy dippy here, but many, many successful business leaders, multimillionaires, billionaires will tell you that meditation is a very important part of their daily life. And the final thing I'd like to end up with is if you are talking about the opportunity, if you are thinking about it, if you stop for a minute, if you're slightly stumped what to say, why not just ask yourself the question, what would Rex do? What would Rex say in that situation? Because, you know, Rex has always said that the power of forever is the power of love. And I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that we have the most incredible opportunity. We change lives with the products, and we change lives with the opportunity by helping to improve people's lifestyles, maybe put an extra few €100 a month in their pocket, or maybe even people being able to take it beyond the side hustle and into the realms of a full-time career, which is exactly what I did nearly 26 years ago. I took it into a full-time career. But if you're ever stuck what to say or what to do, just think to yourself, what would Rex do? So I want to just talk about trust for a minute, because one of the things that we're in this environment is very important to do is to make sure that people trust us for the right reasons. It's so easy to lose trust. And, you know, one of the biggest losses of trust that I've seen certainly in the last decade, was with Volkswagen. You know, Volkswagen had built their reputation up over years and years and years, over decades, for being great quality cars, good performance cars, well-built cars that weren't too expensive. And then, of course, we saw the Volkswagen diesel emission scandal, when they tinkered with the software to make it look as if the emissions the car was giving out weren't as good. And overnight, they destroyed those decades of trust that they'd built up. So please remember, about if you build trust, being honest and ethical is the way that you keep that trust. So what would Rex do? Because Rex would always be honest and ethical and give people an honest answer. So I just hope that my experience of not just surviving, but thriving through those 3 recessions, and inevitably I'm going to not just survive this recession, but I'm going to thrive through this recession, has given you a few ideas. Perhaps I've given you a few ideas how to grow your business, how to behave in these circumstances, how to grow your personal skills. I think we all have a fantastic opportunity in these strange times that we're living through to make an impact on the world, a positive impact on the world, and at the same time be able to grow our businesses and become our own forever lighthouses.
Well, that gives me an opportunity to ask you a question.
Sure.
Adam, what's been the most remarkable thing in a positive sense that happened to you in the last 2 to 3 weeks?
The most remarkable thing, I guess it's because people who've always doubted that you could work successfully from home, everyone is now having to work from home. Certainly here in the UK, you know, there's a total lockdown going on here. So it's amusing now for me to see people talking about working from home when, you know, I've been doing Zoom calls for, 5 years, maybe even 6 years. I've been doing conferences like this. I mean, I love meeting people physically. You can't replace that. And one thing I would beg everyone is, once this is all over, please don't stay in your virtual world. Make sure that you go out and that you're physically meeting people, because nothing can beat that personal connection. You know, nothing can beat somebody being able to look you in the eyes and think, you know what, I like this person, I trust this person, I can do business with this person. Mm-hmm. But even so, I think the most remarkable thing, Olaf, has been the way that people who were cynical and skeptical about the fact that you can work successfully from home are now being forced to work from home, and they're playing catch up with us. You know, us guys have been doing this for years, you know, and I just find it, remarkable, slightly amusing, but you know, that's probably the most remarkable thing I've come across in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Apart from the fact that we live in a little village, so we've actually started buying a lot of local products, like eggs from the egg farmer up the road, and beef from the beef farmer down the road. And I found a guy that does pigs, so he's slaughtering a pig yesterday, and I'm getting some of the meat on Friday. And you know, so apart from being able to connect with lots of little local businesses and support them rather than going to the big supermarkets. Yeah. You know, every week, that for me, that's been a real positive, because it builds that sense of community that we all live in, and we've kind of lost because of the age that we live in. One of the things we've actually been doing for a few years now is we've been doing online product launches. So, you know, somebody can invite, and I genuinely think this is just for close friends of somebody who they think would be supportive of them. But, you can do a Zoom call like we're doing now for maybe half a dozen or a dozen people. And you can actually do, so I could be sitting here now, you could be, the half a dozen people I can see at the top of the screen, including you, Olaf, I could have the products here, I could be picking them up and I could be talking about them. And I could be explaining to people, just the compliant talk about the product and why people might like to try them, and the money back guarantee, and I might talk a bit about the fact we grow our own aloe, we process it ourselves, it's hand harvested, we're an ethical company, we're socially responsible in terms of the fact we're not just carbon neutral, we're carbon negative, or another way of putting it is we're climate positive. All of these kind of messages we could be putting across to people, so people are still able to launch their business or make product sales online, and then get people to as we're doing now with the chat. The chat is now being reactivated. I can see there's five messages come back on, and people can be asking questions. So I can go there and I could be looking at the chat and I could be saying, okay, great, let's how can we approach business-minded people? What's this one here? So, I could be answering that. Adam, you came out of a business-minded environment. How can we approach business-minded people? So I could be doing the same thing with product questions. Do you see what I mean? So there are ways to grow your customer base without leaving your home. If people like the product, just say, listen, we've got an unconditional money-back guarantee. Just buy them and try them. If you don't like them, you get your money back. If you're not yet a manager, you should be completely and utterly focused. Your sole focus should be on getting to manager, because you obviously can't be either an Eagle manager or qualify for chairman's bonus without being a manager. So if you're not yet a manager, you need to give yourself a good kick up the backside and make sure you're there quickly, because the Eagle manager program starts again on the 1st of May. They've actually extended this year's till the end of May to give people an opportunity because of the COVID-19, but the new program still starts on the 1st of May. So you've got from the 1st of May to the 30th of April in order to qualify, that 12 months for Eagle manager. So if you're not yet a manager, get there as quickly as possible. Then you need to work out what you need to do. So for instance, Eagle manager, break down how many case credits you need, break down the 100 new, see what it is monthly, and then see how many people you need to sponsor to generate 100 case credits in new volume. Similarly with chairman's bonus, obviously on chairman's bonus, there are a couple of other things that you need to have. You need to be on car plan, but here's the good news about car plan and chairman's bonus. As long as you qualify for car plan by the end of December, remembering chairman's bonus runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, as long as you're on car plan by the end of December, it still counts. So if you're not yet on car plan, you need to make sure you have a plan in place where you have 3 months where you would do at least 50, 100 and 150 case credits. And normally that's a big stretch. So you'd normally plan to have 100, 120 and 150. But you need to be on car plan. You also need to have a manager in somewhere underneath you that is doing 600 case credits in the year. That's only 50 a month, 5 12s are 60. So that's only 50 case credits a month. But again, that could be a stretch if you do have a manager. If you don't have a manager, then that should be your focus, is to make sure you do get a manager. So there are lots of ways. If you break down the figures, and then you need to do 700 case credits yourself in non-manager, of which 150 have to be new. So if your non-manager business is only averaging 15 or 20 case credits a month, again, you need to give yourself a kick up the backside, and you need to be growing your non-manager business, because that's how you qualify for it. And then again, you can break it all down. So look at the figures. And if you don't understand the figures properly, find a manager above you. Every manager above you would be delighted to try and help you qualify either for Eagle manager or chairman's bonus. So find someone that really understands the marketing plan above, somewhere in your upline, and ask to sit down with them so that, or on a Zoom call, so physically on a Zoom call, and go through the marketing plan, the bit of the marketing plan you want to qualify for, and make sure that you understand it, that you go through it in detail, that you revisit it. If there's something you're not quite sure of, go back to them, ask questions until it's completely fixed in your mind. It's a bit like, learning another language. You have to keep revisiting the vocabulary until you feel comfortable with it. So my commitment matches their commitment, because if they talk a good game, but they don't walk the talk, then my commitment to them drops rapidly. When I sponsor someone, I have huge expectations, because I believe anyone can be successful in this business. The thing that makes most people not successful in what we do, and in opportunities generally, not just in Forever or network marketing, but generally in opportunities, is that people are flaky. We're great at starting things, but we're not so good with following through. So for instance, one of the things that I look for in prospects is somebody that doesn't jump straight in, is somebody that takes the time to do the research, maybe even to buy some products, try some product, to read some books, to watch some clips on YouTube. You can all go on YouTube and find clips by Robert Kiyosaki or Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins or Eric Worre that you can send to prospects to educate them about network marketing. And I think the more time somebody devotes to researching the opportunity before they join, the more likely they are to join, and the more likely they are to do something with the business. People jump in. A lot of people that jump straight in don't actually do anything with it. Does that make sense? Can I very quickly answer Monique Anderson's question, where she said, I came out of a business-minded environment. How can we approach business-minded people best who don't see network marketing as a solid, serious business model yet? Can I just say, Monique, I totally get that. My advice to you is to, again, do what I've just said. Go on YouTube, look at Eric Worre interviewing Anthony Robbins, or listen to Jim Rohn, or listen to Robert Kiyosaki talking about why network marketing is such a brilliant model. There's so much great stuff out there that's free. You don't even need to buy a book. I mean, buy the books, please. But just go on YouTube and see the clips that are out there. Because honestly, you could spend hours going through that, and your belief in network marketing and in Forever would be so strong. You'd be like Iron Man. I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen that film Iron Man, where nothing can get through his armor. And that's exactly what you need to be like. And then you need to be able to find the right clip for the right person. If they're a serious business person, find something that a serious business person might understand. Like Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, his wealth building stuff is amazing, but the fact he also loves network marketing, even though he's never been involved in network marketing, for me, speaks hugely for how wonderful and solid this business and this career really is, and this industry really is. Thanks everyone for coming on. I really appreciate that, and I'll look forward to catching up with you all soon, physically, I hope, rather than just virtually like this. Anyway, have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all soon.